Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and apologies for the slight technical hiccup there with the stream. All good to go, though. We're here for qualifying for round 9 of the Chris Knott Insurance UK Touring Car Championship. We're here at Donington in the 156 WTCC Extreme car tonight. It'll be a good one in this car. One of my favourite aspects of the championships is the fact that we don't go to that many tracks in this touring car championship, but we spice it up a little bit by swapping the car out so much. And for this one, we have the 156, very powerful car here. It's currently Andrew Whitehead, I believe, on pole position, with Colin Knief running P2 at the moment. Only a tenth separating them. Maybe that is Rob Whitney, in fact. That is, in fact, Rob Whitney currently leading this qualifying session, as Colin Knief is in the pit. So that is a 125.8 for Rob Whitney. Then as he just gets clear of some traffic, we've got 13 minutes to go in this qualifying session for this triple header this weekend. So plenty of points up for grabs for these drivers as we start to enter the later stages of the championship now. It's hotting up. It's actually pretty much a five-way battle for the lead of the AM Championship in the touring car class, I believe. My numbers may just be a little bit wrong there, but it looks like it is going to go on to the bitter end. All the drivers looking very competitive this year, as we see Will Inglis posting his first time there, 127.9. He's got some competition in the form of Paul Millen and Barry Clayton at the moment, who's just in the pit, as we see James Rose improving there with 128.2 coming across the line, and that is Andrew Whitehead behind him as he starts his next attempt. So we'll stay on board with him for the moment. So you've got about a second to make up for the moment. We've got 12 minutes, so he should be able to have plenty of opportunity to try and close that gap up to pole position. Maybe fighting with Colin Knief, maybe fighting with Matt Daly. Matt Daly, we did actually see before, has indeed joined the session. Haven't seen him post a time yet, but he should be ready to compete in just a second. In fact, it looks like he's coming across the line now, so if I can, and he can compete. I was trying to see if I could grab a car to kind of follow him along with, but I didn't need to because that was a very fast lap from Matt Daly there, 125.6, class of the field for the moment then. So he's showing that he means business in this qualifying session. That was 3 green sectors, and that was a brilliant lap from Matt. We'll stay on board then with Colin Knief as he tries to have an answer for Matt Daly's very impressive lap there. Gets it a little bit wrong on exit there through that S's section. Very fast S's section. So easy to get it wrong, especially when you're in the middle of the race, actually, if you're in traffic as well. It is relatively wide, this circuit, for a British track at least. It's not by no means the widest track out there, but it is a very difficult part of the track to race through, so there should be plenty of action going on there in the races in just a moment. And he does improve even with that mistake, but is not much in that sector. It was 200ths or 2,000ths of a second, I believe, actually. No, it was just 200ths. See Alan Matthews and Andrew Whitehead very close in terms of pace moment. So we've got battles throughout the field, really, in terms of pecking order, as we see. I believe that is, I can't quite make out what car that was. I believe that was Paul Millman behind him. That may have been, oh, it's Alan Matthews getting it wrong on exit, coming to the final corner there. What a shame that he has had to abandon that attempt. And Colin does actually take pole, even with that mistake on the lap. He takes pole by 700ths of a second, 125.3 there. So the battle for pole is on. Well and truly on between Colin and Matt for the moment. They're about half a second clear of anyone else. They look like they're going to be trading lap times right until the very end of the session as it starts to get more and more comfortable in the car. And try to get as many laps as possible in. Speaking of trying to get many laps as possible in, I was about to say Barry Clayton's actually running on the medium tyres, which is an interesting choice. No one else is currently using that compound, so he may be trying to get some practice running in for later. He plans on running the medium tyres, but I am going to go on board with Matt Daly, who has just set 2 purple sectors. He is absolutely flying at the moment. A 25.1 for the first sector and a 23.2 for the second sector, but Colin Knief's taking that purple sector off him for sector 2. They're not that far apart on track. It's all going to come down to the final sector for these two rather, as we see him barreling back down towards the start-finish straight, and he abandons that attempt Oh dear. Not sure what went wrong there. Saw a little bit of oversteer on exit. Maybe a little bit too greedy with the throttle, but he's had to abandon that attempt, unfortunately. What a shame. So it looks to be that Colin is going to extend his gap for pole position for the moment, unless he finds himself making a mistake as well. But that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. He comes across the line and improves with a 1:25.2. All those small margins do add up. They make a big difference towards the end of the session. It can be the difference between the first and the second row even. Yeah, so Matt Daly having to abandon that lap, then that will play into Colin's hands nicely. So we go further down the order, actually, we can see Andrew Whitehead and Rob Whitney are very close together indeed, and they are fighting for P3 for the moment. Unless Rob can push a bit more towards Matt and Colin in terms of pace. But yeah, these two occupying Sector 3 together. In fact, Sector 3 is looking quite busy. We've also got Jack Hodson, I believe. Oh, it's Rosie Hodson there. Apologies, Rosie. As, yeah, plenty of traffic there heading into Turn 1. And it's all gone wrong for Alan Matthews. Oh, it's not Alan Matthews. That is Greg Young and Rosie Hodson there having to abandon this lap attempt, as we see Will Inglis improving his time there at 1:26.8 for Will. And we can see Andrew Whitehead, Rob Whitney actually abandoning his lap there, but Andrew Whitehead gets ready to start another attempt now. So we'll stay on board with him as he heads down into Turn 1, using as much of the track as he possibly can, going onto the pit exit there to set the car up nicely for that right-hander there. Heavy braking zone there. And you've got another much more open right-hander and a big drop in elevation as you head through the S's section. Now, Colin Keneath improving his time there to a 1:25.1. He's found another couple of tenths. He is absolutely flying. And the progression, watching this progression is actually quite nice to see, actually. We've found about a second in terms of pace since the start of the session. We've got just over 5 minutes to go now. And yeah, the track is ramping up nicely. The drivers are starting to feel a little bit more confident in the car, but it looks like, is that Colin Keneath off? That is Colin Keneath off, although I believe that might just be him coming to the end of his lap attempt. Obviously, that stint in qualifying that's just come to the end of. It's very rare to see Colin Keneath make a mistake like that. Diving on the brakes, Andrew, as he goes into that very sneaky kind of left-right section almost. I believe it's a bit of an add-on. I believe there is another layout that eschews that part of the circuit. That slows the track down just a little bit. Got to come back on yourself, and then you've got the final corner, that tight left-hander, where, as we saw with Matt Daly, you can get it a little bit wrong as you go back onto throttle and ruin your lap. Will Andrew Whitehead do the same? He's got about 1.1 seconds to make up, to get a little bit closer towards those on pole, and he doesn't on this attempt, unfortunately. It is a 1:26.3 for Andrew Whitehead. Doesn't look like anyone's currently setting their best, to be honest. Everyone's kind of had a first kind of push towards pole position, and now it looks like we're having a bit of a breather, a bit of a reset as we get ready for another attempt. You can get a few laps in on the soft tyres, so you're not having to pit too much. Obviously, the main reason why people will be pitting will be to replenish their fuel. Of course, not wanting to carry too much fuel on board, as that can obviously impede your progress draw in quali. Every single kilo counts, as it looks like Greg Young is actually on for a nice lap at the moment. He's just gone with a 25.4 for the first sector. Just a little bit behind the man in front of him there, Will Inglis. He's got some traffic to contend with. He set a 25.3, just a 25.399 actually, so it was just a 29.3. But yeah, he clears that traffic then. So we see Greg Young as he enters Sector 3 now. That heavy braking zone. A lot of these braking zones are under are on downhill slopes, actually. Obviously, this car won't struggle with it too much. It's quite a stable car, this, actually. The drivers seem to be very happy with the way this drives. At least I believe so. Anyway, last time I had a proper chat with them about this car, to be honest, was back in testing. But it looks to be a very nice car to drive. I imagine the Giulietta TCR down those kind of steep elevations as Greg Young improves there to go a 1:26.3. He takes P6 from Will Inglis, and Matt Daly takes pole position back from Colin Keneath with an absolutely blistering lap there. I'm sorry I wasn't on board with it. A 1:24.5, just found half a second on his rival, now sitting in P2. And it was an electric Sector 3, to be honest, a 36.1. Sees him about a second clear of anyone else in Sector 3 for the moment. I'm not sure how on earth he did that, but he pulled it off. A 1:24.5 for Matt Daly then. That's showing he means business, and in fact he's just gone purple again, a 25 flat through Sector 1 now. He found a few hundred tenths there. Let's watch him as he heads through the S's section. The car kind of rotating just a little bit under braking. Yeah, as I was saying, I imagine the Giulietta would be a little bit more, how shall we say, a bit more of a handful on some of those elevation changes under braking. As we see Matt Daly heading through one himself, and he's found another 10th through Sector 2. He is absolutely flying, a 23.1 in Sector 2 this time round. And it can be all made or lost in this final sector now. We've seen him mess up a lap attempt once here. Can he stave away from making that same mistake again? Let's see. He's not got long to go now. Colin Knief is back out on track though, on a 23.1 again for Colin Knief. Sees him go purple in Sector 2, so these two are battling out tooth and nail as he heads round the final corner now, riding the curbs as much as possible. Car looking like it was a little bit unhappy, but he improves anyway. A 124.52. He's found a few hundredths of a second, but that could make all the difference as we watch Colin Knief come round now, and he has gone purple Sector 2. It was an amazing Sector 1, so I'm not quite sure if he'll be able to salvage a pole from this lap, does he? He doesn't, unfortunately. He's about a second off the pace on that attempt. As we see cars getting very close on pit exit there. The driver's wanting to use the pit exit clearly because it's setting up the car quite nicely under braking for turn 1, but obviously you could have an accident there. Quite a high speed, bit of an airplane crash to be honest. At that point in the track, one of the fastest parts of the circuit heading into turn 1. So one that the drivers will want to watch out for as they come towards the end of the qualifying session, and everyone is trying to get out on track to set a lap in ideal conditions. Once again, it looks like we've got a bit of a traffic jam down at Sector 3, although it's not too bad to be honest, as Will Harper is now out on track as well, currently running P12. He has got Rosie Hodgson and at John Baker for company in this part of qualifying. Alan Matthews looks like he's got some very nice clear air actually. He is heading through Sector 2 on his lonesome. Having completed the S's section, that should be able to set him up. Yeah, he's on an out lap at the moment, but that should be able to set himself up nicely for a lap. Although he may have some traffic to deal with heading into Sector 1 as everyone, literally everyone, looks to be heading through Sector 1 as we speak. See Colin, he's on another attempt of a lap, but it doesn't look like this one is going to be the one. No personal bests on this lap, and not a brilliant Sector 2. Not to his desires, I am sure, as we see Andrew Whitehead. Alan Matthews actually took 4th position from Andrew Whitehead, as nearly has a little bit of contact with Rosie Hodgson there. Rosie Hodgson looks like might have made a tiny bit of an error on exit of the previous corner there, and Andrew was very swift to avoid. Well done to both of them for avoiding that there, as Andrew Whitehead sets a personal best in Sector 1. As does Will Harper, currently running P8. Will Harper is on a very fast lap by the looks of things. He is set a 25.8 in Sector 1, a 23.6 in Sector 2, so he should be on for a nice improvement there. But it's Andrew Whitehead who is heading towards Sector 3 now. He comes towards the end of this lap. He's posted a very nice Sector 2 actually, a 23.4. Not the quickest we've seen out there, but still a very nice effort. As he comes round the final corner and crosses the line with a 125.7. That sees him go P3. He takes P3 away from Rob Whitney, someone who he's been sparring with for the entirety of this qualifying session pretty much. So I'm sure he wanted to get another lap attempt in, but it doesn't look like that is going to be the case, unfortunately for him, as we come towards the end of qualifying now. And it looks to be that Will Harper stays in P8 for the moment, and I don't believe Colin Knief is actually going to make it just in the nick of time. He has got one more attempt to take pole position away from Matt Daly, and the car gets away from him through turn 1. A little bit of oversteer cost him this lap attempt, and he has to settle for P2 in this qualifying session, but he's not the only one still out on track. I believe we have Will Harper still trying to climb further up the order. And for that matter as well, we have Will Inglis also out on track at the moment. Yes, so two drivers cutting it very close with the timing, then managing to get one final lap in at the end, but it is Matt Daly on pole position for the moment with a 124.5, closely followed by Colin Knief. But it is not the qualifying session that Colin Keefe wants to write home about, I am sure. See Will Inglis actually improving there. About 4 seconds quicker according to the timing screens. I'm not sure if I trust that. Seen these cars going very fast in this qualifying session, about 150 miles an hour. That is nothing to bat your eyelids at. Very quick, very powerful cars here, and they will be brilliant to watch in the race. Andrew Whitehead actually has just gone purple in Sector 3. Although apparently that was a 1:17. Again, I'm not sure what the timing system is doing there. I know Andrew Whitehead's very fast, but I don't think he has found 7 seconds on Matt Daly. No offence there, Andrew. But I may be proven wrong. Let's see if I'm proven wrong in just a moment when we start the racing action here at Donington with Race 1. I'll catch you in just a moment. And welcome back to the action here at Donington Park. We've got just under 1 minute until lights out, and we are here with Matt Daly sitting on pole position, Colin Keefe in P2, Rob Whitney in P3, and Alan Matthews in P4. Quite a staggered grid here at Donington Park, actually. Yeah, more so than I thought. Looks a bit like a superbike grid, as you can see. Obviously, the bike grid markings there on track as well. You may have noticed I slightly put up the wrong kind of card on the stream there, and you got to look at some very nice Alfa 75s before I was able to switch it back over to this 156 very powerful car that we are racing here tonight. We've got 20 seconds until lights out, and we're already starting to hear the revs rising. It looks like, is that Alan Matthews with his lights on? No, it's not. It's Will Inglis sticking there with his headlights on. A little bit of an intimidation tactic that we see every now and again. I quite like it. It's like a GT car. It's like a GT car race, although it is a bit more of a sprint. And the revs rise, and we have 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away for 20 minutes here at Donington Park. Matt Daly gets a very nice launch, as does Colin Keefe, and Andrew Whitehead was actually on pole there. Sorry, I didn't quite see. Yeah, that wasn't expecting that, but it is Matt Daly who leads heading into turn 1. He gets a much better launch than Andrew, who didn't get a great didn't leave the line amazingly well there, and he has to settle for P3 for the moment. We should have the proper camera assistant working in just a second, although it looks like everything's just broken, which is amazing, but it's okay. We'll be able to carry on as we see Andrew Whitehead get a little bit untidy, and he's now under pressure from Will Inglis heading through the S's now, and it looks like Colin Keefe is gaining on Matt Daly ever so slightly, although they're sticking around that half a second range for the moment. It's getting a little bit bigger, that gap now, actually, and there's pretty much a 4-way battle about to be going on for P3. Andrew Whitehead must be feeling the pressure now as he comes towards the final part of the first lap of this race. Will Inglis is using that slipstream to full effect. Is he going to be brave under braking? They are side by side heading into the braking zone, and Will Inglis is able to get the move done under braking. Very nice move from Will there, although he kicks the car onto the gravel a little bit, and now he is under pressure from Alan Matthews, who's flown through that part of the track. It is now on the inside line. He gets boxed off by Will Inglis, and as well is now feeling the pressure from Barry Clayton and Andrew Whitehead. It's not the start to the race that Andrew Whitehead would have wanted. He's now running P6, and it looks like Barry Clayton might be able to get him as well as they head into this corner, the final corner, and he makes contact with Alan Matthews. Contact with Alan Matthews there. No one came out of it with any form of damage or harm. Well, it looks like there's a bit more contact there, and there's been a huge crash on the exit of turn 1. It looks like that is Paul Milman in a wall. I'm not quite sure who he made contact with, but he's going to have to reverse that car out and try and claw back some track position if he can, as it looks like. Is that James Rose? Yes, that is James Rose under pressure from Rosie Hodson as they head through turn 1 now. But the battle for what is effectively P3 looks like it's died down just a little bit, but there's still plenty of cars occupying the same space on the track as Paul Milman has to enter the pits, unfortunately, with, I imagine, some fairly substantial damage. But Colin Keefe through the S's has gained once again. He's brought that gap down from about 0.8 of a second at one point. It's now down to about 0.5 of a second, based on which part of the track that they are on, as Matt Daly is weaving aggressively to try and break the slipstream heading into the harsh braking zone here. He must be feeling the pressure from a very fast Colin Keefe, who is obviously trying to use that slipstream as much as possible. But Matt Daly is absolutely throwing that car around the circuit to make sure he can't get past, make that 156 as wide as he possibly can as we head towards the final part of this lap. And there's contact between Alan Matthews and Will Inglis. That allows Andrew Whitehead to take advantage of their misfortunes there and climb his way back up into P4. He's carrying quite a lot of speed. Will he can get around the outside? He's a little bit too far back, unfortunately, and he gets boxed off by Will Inglis. Very nice defensive driving from Will there, and Matt Daly and Colin Keefe are absolutely flying, setting 125 lap times. They are pretty much quali laps, and they are doing them with a full load of fuel on board, and it's 3 wide heading into turn 1 as Will Inglis is still in 3rd position for the moment. Alan Matthews is close on the tail of Andrew Whitehead, and Barry Clayton is in the mix as well. This is an absolutely immense battle for P3 as they go side by side through the S's. Andrew Whitehead thinks about a move up the inside, but it wasn't going to work from that far back, and he has to dip back, and it looks like Alan Matthews is absolutely flying there, going to have to go off the circuit so he can take the inside line, and they're going to swarm Will Inglis. This is going to end in tears if they're not careful. Andrew Whitehead has to resort to the grass, and there's contact as he rejoins the circuit. It looks like Andrew Whitehead just clipped the back of Will Inglis's car. Yes, that is Will Inglis's car. Just a little bit there. And that is game over for these two in this race. They're going to have to climb their way back through the field. Looks like Will Inglis is struggling to re-enter the track. And the back end's gone on that car again. And he is now stumbling down the order. What an immense battle. And what a shame to see it end between these two like that. But they were racing so hard. It was brilliant to watch. Obviously, Barry Clayton still running P5 at the moment with Rob Whitney now in P4. Alan Matthews has had a little bit of a breather, although he now will be feeling the pressure from Rob Whitney. Yeah, he's had a little bit of a breather after two of his very close rivals found themselves pointing the wrong way and looking at some scenery here at Donington Park. But it is still Matt Daly in the lead as they head through turn one. The curb upsetting the car just a tiny bit on the exit of the first corner. But Colin Knief still isn't close enough to make a move yet. We are 5 minutes into this 20-minute race, and it has been non-stop action as we see Matt Daly kicking up a little bit of dirt there as he heads into the S's. I wonder if he's trying to dirty the windscreen of the car behind. I'm sure not. Assetto doesn't even simulate that anyway, but it'd be good if it did. That's more of an ACC thing, I think. As we see the battle for P8 between John Baker and Will Harper is going on very strong there. As they head into the yeses, Andrew Whitehead is absolutely flying there, tries to make his 156 fit in between that tiny little gap there, although I think that was more Mito-sized, to be honest. You weren't going to quite squeeze the car through there. He stamps on the brakes and avoids any form of contact, though, and he's absolutely flying through that corner there, having to dip onto the grass a little bit, and he's on the rear wing of Will Harper now, trying to take back P8. As he hangs the car around the outside to set himself up for that downhill braking zone. Is he going to be brave on the brakes from that far back? I don't think so. I think he's going to try and use a slipstream and stay around the outside there. He does. I know he dips back in just behind. He is so close to that car behind. He might have been, you may have been wondering if he got rattled by that incident earlier on. I don't think so at all. He is racing very aggressively to try and get, fairly, but very aggressively to try and get his way back up the order. As we see Jack Hodson and Will Inglis trading blows heading into Sector 3 as he tries to climb his way back up through the order as well. Andrew Whitehead going round the outside as he starts the next lap. It looks like Will Harper rather was trying to defend there, but had to concede. He just wasn't carrying enough speed, whereas Andrew Whitehead went round the outside there, whacks his car onto the pit exit and is able to dart the car back into turn one. But it's all gone wrong there. He's gone a little bit too wide, maybe carrying just a little bit too much speed. I'm not sure if he's got much damage from that earlier incident, but the car wasn't there when he asked it to be, and he's found himself once again in P8, or no, P9 rather, having gone off at turn one there, and it looks like the battle for P11 is going on and raging on. It is indeed between Rosie Hodson and Will Inglis. Will Inglis having got past Rosie as they head through the S's now. And the battle for P1 is still kind of there or thereabouts. It looks like Colin Knief has dropped off from behind Matt Daly just a little bit now. Obviously, these two racing each other at such a pace, it's going to start putting a lot of load through the tyres, going to start chomping through fuel, and we don't simulate brake wear, but it would absolutely annihilate the brakes in these cars racing this aggressively for such a long time. They're in the mid-25, so still absolutely flying there. Not purple, but very fast laps from the pair of these two, who are about 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. The rest of the field obviously being embroiled in so many battles there, as we see Alan Matthews improving with a personal best lap time there, so he has now got some clear air and is absolutely flying as well. As we see, Colin Knief's a little bit closer on this time around, heading through the S's, about 0.5 of a second, 0.6. Yeah, kind of hovering around that number there. As we see, it looks like Andrew Whitehead has got back past Will Harper, and they make contact. There's a big crash there. Will Harper was just kind of, not really parked on the entry into turn one there, but it doesn't look like Andrew Whitehead was expecting that car to be there from where I was watching it, as we see Will Inglis and Andrew Whitehead once again battling, but this time it is for the final point scoring positions. Obviously, if they were being very friendly with each other, they would decide to work together and try and push their way back up the order, but these guys want to race, and race they will. As it looks like Andrew Whitehead was carrying just a little bit more, not as much speed as Will Inglis was there, as he was obviously kind of recovering from that incident that he just had in turn one. Will Harper's been able to recover quite nicely as well, so not too much damage there for either driver, but still a little bit unfortunate for the both of them, as we see Colin Knief absolutely flying now, 125.1, and he's very close on the entry into turn 1 under braking there. That was in touching distance almost, as we start another lap with the two leaders of the race then. And there is now a four-way battle for P9 by the looks of things. Oh no, that's for P8 actually. John Baker, Will Inglis running P9 at the moment, and Andrew Whitehead running P10 as they all start to head down the start-finish straight. And Andrew Whitehead really enjoys putting his car there. It must be the way that his car is set up or his driving style that works for him there, as we see the pair of them trying to hang it around the outside to get past John Baker, although I imagine they're going to have to dart onto the inside maybe of the next corner if they want to get the move done, as we see John Baker trying to defend against two cars. It's a very difficult job to do that, especially when those two cars are as quick as they are. And another little bit of contact for Andrew Whitehead. I imagine his car is suffering a little bit now at this stage in the race. We're about halfway, and he has been absolutely flying for so long, trying to get his way back through the order, and he has had, as a result of that, a couple of little knocks to the car, as we see John Baker getting a little bit of a slide on corner exit there, and Will Harper tries to get past, as Andrew Whitehead is pretty much playing bumper cars with Will Inglis as they head down towards Sector 3 now. Andrew Whitehead enjoying that slipstream. Will he attempt a move under braking? I think he's too far back once again. Will Harper's thinking about it though. Will Harper from quite far back is thinking about a move under braking, and that move stuck. That was a very brave move from Will Harper to take P10 into that heavy braking zone there. Well done to Will, well done to those two for a very nice, enjoyable battle. Speaking of enjoyable battles, though, this one is still ongoing as they head towards the final part of the lap, and Colin Knief is heading through the S's, and it's looking like he could get quite close to Matt Daly on this attempt. Let's see, Matt Daly breaks the slipstream there, weaving about to try and defend with all of his might from Colin Knief, but these two are also side-by-side heading into turn 1. Andrew Whitehead takes that pit exit, takes that line through the pit exit once again. I think that might have been a tiny bit of contact or a little bit of lag, and he has gone wide, rather. Once again, Andrew Whitehead absolutely driving that car to within an inch of its life. As we see Colin getting achingly close under braking, but a little bit of oversteer means that on this lap it doesn't look like any attempt is going to be made, unfortunately. The car, obviously, so much power going to the rear wheels in these things. Not like the road car. The road car obviously being a front-wheel drive chassis, or Q4, I believe. Someone can correct me if I am wrong, if Q4 was available on a 156. Yeah, Matt Daly weaving again down the start-finish straight. It must be worth it to break the slipstream. Must be fairly powerful, I will have to ask, as we see Colin getting a little bit unhappy on the entry into turn 1 again. Meanwhile, Rob Whitney has been running very nicely in P4 at the moment. He's got a little bit of clear track and has been doing an immense job to take quite a few points away. They're running P4 at the moment. As we see, Will Harper, Will Inglis and Andrew Whitehead still pretty much neck and neck as they start another lap. And they're going to be side-by-side heading into turn 1. Andrew taking his favourite line and trying to hang it round the outside, maybe? No, he's done a switchback, and they've made contact again. These two have came together again. I'm not sure they will be enjoying racing each other too much more in this race, as Andrew White slides onto the other side of the track, and Will Harper does a very good job of avoiding there. But yeah, once again, we've seen another great battle between these two come to an end as a result of a little bit of contact. Doesn't look like anyone lost out too much there. Andrew White has lost out on a few seconds in terms of pace, but should be able to carry on as it stands. Yeah, what a shame that those two not able to battle towards the end like I'm sure they would have wanted to. Still, the lead is by no means secured for Matt Daly, although that makes it a little bit easy. It takes a tiny bit of the pressure off, seeing Colin drop back just over a second behind Matt now as we enter the S's. So actually, Matt Daly running the medium tyres. So those mediums should start to come good as we enter this stage of the race, the final part of the race where especially if you are in Colin's position. You have been going at full pace, 110% effort to try and catch up to Matt. He's running these soft tyres, so may start to struggle as we get towards the end of the race now, whereas Matt can breathe, can relax a little bit, knowing that his tyres should keep him secure heading into some of these bends. Same case for Barry Clayton, as we saw running the mediums in qualifying even, and Greg Young, John Baker, Rosie Hodson, Will Harper as well. So we've got quite a few drivers run the mediums this time round, as is Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead's running the medium tyres, and Will Gliss is on the softs. So we might see Andrew Whitehead actually be able to claw back some track position to getting closer towards Will Gliss, as he should have a little bit more tyre life underneath him as we get towards the final part of the race. We see Matt Daly still trying to break the slipstream just a little bit there. Colin Knieve didn't have an amazing lap, a 126.3 there. It's still a very quick lap, considering we are in race trim, but not quite up there with Matt on that occasion. See John Baker and Rosie Hodson, yes, sorry. Yeah, John Baker and Rosie Hodson still in each other's wing mirrors, shall we say. Still very close together. It could be a nice battle for the final point scoring position as we enter the final stages of the race now. As it looks like Andrew Whitehead's found about a second back towards Will Gliss since he had that previous off. But he still, I am sure, wants that to be just a little bit closer as we enter, as I've mentioned, the closing stages of this race. A little bit of oversteer for Andrew Whitehead on exit there. It means that this lap might not be the one that does it, but he'll be creeping ever closer, starting to build that pressure on Will out in front. See Colin in that critical kind of 1 second zone there, where he can start to think about planning moves, start to think about where he's going to put the pressure on, using the slipstream. Obviously it will be effective from about a second back. These cars carrying rather large wings, so it should, the car in front should break the airflow for the car behind nicely. But about 1 second, 1.2 seconds between these two as we enter the final few minutes now. And it looks like all the drivers have found a little bit of breathing room on the track finally. We've taken about 15 minutes, but finally the drivers found somewhere where they are comfortable running at a nice, decent pace without too much commotion to distract them on circuit. See Paul Millman carrying on there, having had that big accident on the final corner on the previous time round. He is a lap down from everyone else, but I'm sure he doesn't. Will Harper wouldn't mind if they have a little bit of a battle. So as he tries to unlap himself here as we head into Sector 3. He is using that slipstream to full effect. If he's not thinking about battling, he'll be at least trying to drag himself higher, or at least drag himself along just a little bit quicker using that slipstream. And this battle for the final point scoring position hasn't quite come to fruition yet. They're still only about a second apart, 1.5 seconds apart as we enter turn 1. And John Baker gets it all wrong, but a little bit of a sympathy spin for Rosie Hodson there as well, as she gets it wrong. And it means I thought Rosie was going to be able to really start putting the pressure on John as a result of that little hiccup there, but it looks like that battle has diffused itself with turn 1. Turn 1 catching a couple of drivers out, actually, in this session. Will Harper sees Rosie now and believes he might be able to get past. I'm not sure if he can think about a move through the S's yet, but those heavy braking zones in Sector 3 should will have his name on it, if you will. There's another pun there. I apologise for my terrible puns there. As we see, Colin Knieve has actually backed off a little bit from Matt Daly. A little bit further behind on this lap, maybe starting to see those soft tyres scream out as they come towards the end of a very arduous stint of some very fast lapping. Matt Daly has done an immense job to stay out in the lead for as long as he has. He capitalised on a poor launch from Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead didn't have the best start to the race, and it meant he was able to snatch up P1 heading into the first corner and has kept it ever since, although no thanks to the efforts from Colin Knieve. Colin Knieve putting on a mighty effort there to try and take P1 from Matt, getting very close on a few occasions, but it wasn't to be for Colin, unfortunately. So he actually drives off 3 wide heading down the start-finish straight as Will Harper gets past Rosie Hodson, and Paul Millman is in the mix as well. So actually, Greg Young is getting ever closer to Barry Clayton. Currently running P5 is Barry Clayton as they get ready to start another lap there. And a little bit of oversteer for Greg Young means that he's going to be backing away from the car in front just a little bit as we enter what will be the... Actually, let me just double check that. I don't want to speak mistruths. No, it looks like this may be the penultimate lap of this race unless they can get round in time. They might be able to. Either way, we've got 2 or 3 laps of this race remaining, and I'm sure those on this soft tyres are starting to struggle a little bit now, as we see Andrew Whitehead getting very close to Will Inglis. We've seen this one before, haven't we? These two very fast drivers know how to race each other very nicely. Got plenty of experience with it, but unfortunately, tonight's race, one hasn't quite gone the way that either one would have wanted it to. As we see positions swapping about between Rosie Hodson and Will Harper, and that is because Will Harper has spun. Matt Daly has to avoid there. Colin Keefe isn't able to avoid. Colin Keefe makes contact with Will Harper. Will Harper, through no fault of his own there, just got it a little bit wrong over the curb and found himself parked in the middle of the track, obviously wanting to rejoin in a safe manner. Had to check before he just kind of moved, and yeah, unfortunate to collect Matt, and definitely collected Colin there, as Colin has to back off behind Matt Daly just a little bit once again. But yeah, we've seen these two battling before. They're getting closer. We're on the final lap though, so it's pretty much now or never for Andrew if he wants to take P8 away from Will Inglis. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. They haven't started their final lap yet, but there's not many overtaking opportunities left on this circuit here. As you see Andrew edging ever closer now as he goes round the inside there. Will Inglis defending with all of his might, using as much of the track as he can, and breaking the toe a little bit as they head into the next braking zone. He takes that inside line. Andrew Whitehead, as we've seen him at turn 1, goes a little bit wider there, but is able to do the switchback, takes the inside line on exit, and they are now side by side as they head down the start-finish straight. But it was Matt Daly with his headlights on at the moment, heading into Sector 3 with what will be a well-deserved victory for Matt there, as we see these two side by side again heading into turn 1 on the braking there. It looks like Andrew Whitehead might be able to edge out just a little bit. He has the inside line coming up, although Will Inglis should be able to defend with that gap between them, and he does defend. But it is Matt Daly who we are focusing on now as he comes round the final corner. He might do a little bit of a slide in celebration. He doesn't. He comes across the line. Matt Daly takes the race 1 victory after a very impressive drive to keep Colin Keefe behind. Colin Keefe coming home P2. Very impressive drive from him as well. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite to be for him in this race. And Alan Matthews rounds out the podium there. He was running very nicely in practice. I saw him actually setting some very nice laps, and he has done an almighty job to take P3 there. That should be a nice haul of points for him. But these two still battling as we head into Sector 3 now. They are pretty much side by side, I was about to say, but it looks like Andrew Whitehead was able to carry just so much more speed, taking that outside line. That gave him the inside line for the right-hander that in that kind of S section there. And Andrew Whitehead is able to take P8 from Will Inglis at the very final stage of this race. It's what he wanted to do about 3 other times and about 20 minutes ago. It wasn't to be, though, on those attempts, but he can take some solace in knowing that he has overtaken Will Inglis for P8. Commiserations to Will to lose out on that battle, but it was a very enjoyable battle to see between the two that I am sure they're looking forward to a little bit more action like that in race 2. As we see John Baker coming round into the final section now to round out the point scoring positions. Well done for a very good race for him, Ashley and Rosie Hodson, enjoying some very nice battles out on track, and commiserations to Paul Millman, who comes across the line now to conclude his race after a disappointing start with that early race incident. As we see Matt Daly on his parade lap then. Still got the headlights on. Clearly doesn't own enough Alfa Romeo Mito, because I would be trying to preserve the battery a little bit more if he was in anything else, but he comes into the pits then. Will we see another Colin Keefe kind of parking job, actually? I don't know if you can at Donington here. No, we don't. He enters his pit box. Never know, it might be race 2 win or race 3 as well, of course, this being a triple header. Either way, we will see you in just a moment for race 2 here at Donington Park. Don't go anywhere. The action's going to be back in just a second. And welcome back to the action here at Donington Park. It is ready for, it's time for race 2, the reverse grid part of the weekend, or the first part of the reverse grid weekend. I'll try that again. A little bit tired today. If you haven't worked out already, I'm just checking Will Inglis's tyres there, so he can get ready for this battle with Andrew Whitehead. That is inevitable as we head into turn 1. These two side by side on the grid as a result of the standings from the previous race. Yeah, just checking the tyres, all looking good there. Yeah, so be on for a good race. I believe we have John Baker on pole, although he isn't here yet by the looks of things. Obviously, as I missed in race 1, very helpful numbers there to tell you where pole position is. But of course at this time, and unfortunately our man on pole isn't here yet. He's got about 30 seconds, so he's leaving it very late to get into the car. Obviously wanting to keep the tyres in the tyre warmers for as long as possible, maybe. But yeah, it is Will Inglis on P2 at the moment, Andrew Whitehead in P3, James Rose P4 and Greg Young P5 as we head into race 2, and it looks like, I don't know if John Baker's going to be able to make it in time, because we're starting to hear drivers rev their engines a little bit to amp themselves up, get themselves ready for the launch, that all-important launch. Andrew Whitehead is pretty much in the same position that he was last time. He'll be hoping to get a better launch, though, as we have 6 red lights on the gantry. No man on pole for this race here then, and it looks like Andrew Whitehead did get a better launch this time, but Will Inglis moves to put some pressure on Andrew already as they head into turn 1 now. We're about to be side by side, but Andrew Whitehead played it very safe under braking there, but he had the inside line, able to put some pressure on Will Inglis, who does get away though on exit. As we see Will Inglis leading this race, and Greg Young in P3, he's overtaken James Rose, and Matt Daly is climbing through the field. Already P5, he's putting James Rose under pressure now as they head into the S's, and it looks like Colin Knief is putting pressure on Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews certainly knows how to get a 156 around this circuit, as we saw in the previous race. Colin looks about hanging it around the outside there, but thinks better of it, as we see Matt Daly getting past James Rose, now getting a little bit untidy on exit though. It looks like Colin Knief and Alan Matthews have made contact. There's so many cars occupying the same part of the circuit, as we see we see Matt Daly and James Rose side by side, banging wheels just a little bit as they head through that corner, and it could be a 5-way battle for P4, although it looks like Matt Daly has got past James Rose. Now he's got that move secure, but Barry Clayton is putting James Rose under pressure and does a switch back under braking to he takes the inside line there and takes P5 away from James Rose, as we see Alan Matthews now the next to put pressure on James Rose. If he can put James Rose between him and Colin, he will set himself up very nicely for this race. A little bit of breathing space between the two there, although it looks like Colin Knief is able to get past Rob Whitney. Rob Whitney overtaken by Colin Knief there for P8. As we see, Rob Whitney, though, looks like on the inside, on the exit of the final corner there, he's got a better run of it and able to defend that position there, box him off there and take back P8. As we see that battle for P4 breaking away just a little bit, although it looks like Matt Daly is flying. He is now very close to Greg Young. Greg Young getting it a little bit wrong on exit of turn 1 there. These two very close as they were for so much of race 1. Yeah, it looks like Matt Daly is gaining ever closer to Greg Young. He's thinking about a move already, although I think he's too far back from here. We see as well Colin Knief side by side with Rob Whitney as they head through the S's. We saw in race 1 just how wrong heading side by side through the S's can go, but it looks like Colin's got that move done. We see Alan Matthews trying to put some pressure on James Rose now. He tries to hang it down the inside under braking. Does he get that move done? He does get that move done. That's a very impressive move from Alan Matthews to secure P6 there. As we see Matt Daly trying to get Greg Young with the braking, but Greg Young boxes him off there, defends his position. Greg Young then still under pressure from Matt Daly. Matt Daly's have to drop back just a little bit. You can't be that close to the rear wing or the rear bumper of one car for so long without an inevitable incident. It hasn't happened yet. I don't think it will. These two are very good drivers, as we see Will Inglis and Andrew Whitehead still bumper to bumper as they head into turn 1. Alan Matthews actually taking the fastest lap of the race so far, 126.3 in his attempts to defend from Matt Daly, but it looks like all of those attempts were in vain. Matt Daly hangs it on the inside between turn 2 and turn 3 and has got the better track position, occupies that better bit of tarmac to set himself up for the S's, and has taken P3 away from Greg Young. James Rose finally concedes P7 to Colin Knief. It was a pretty hard effort for Colin there to get past James, but he has done so now. I can now think about moving back up towards Alan Matthews in P5. I was about to say Barry Clayton as well, but it looks like Barry Clayton got it a little bit wrong and will soon be under threat from Colin Kanife. I'm sure Alan Matthews will be asking will be asking Barry to make his car as wide as possible so he can run back towards the podium just like he did in race 1. See someone locking up under braking there. That looks like it was Greg Young under braking there, making his tyres a little bit more straight-edged, shall we say. He doesn't want to do that too much, otherwise he'll be suffering towards the end of the race. As we see, Will Inglis getting a little bit wrong on the exit of the final corner there, and it means Andrew Wayhead's going to be able to go side by side, although maybe there's a little bit of difference in setup there, or he just wasn't carrying quite as much speed as I thought, but he has to concede for P2, has to concede that position. He wasn't going to make that move done down the start-finish straight, and there is now a train. It's a three-way battle for the lead. Now, Matt Daly has been flying in a bit of clean air, meanwhile, Colin Kanife is stuck down in P6 now. So he is side by side with Barry Clayton as they head through the S's. It looks like Barry's going to have to concede though. Colin Kanife is going to force the issue and take P6 and secure P6 away from Barry. But yeah, Matt Daly in some clear air has been absolutely flying as they come towards Sector 3 now, and he'll be probably thinking about trying to leapfrog Andrew Whitehead and take the position from Will Inglis directly, if he can. Although that will be a hard ask from about half a second back. Not impossible, though. We've seen some really nice moves under braking from the likes of Will Harper in the previous race. So yeah, Andrew Whitehead not carrying quite as much speed for his speed traps as other cars by the looks of things. A few miles an hour difference, as we see Will Inglis getting it a little bit wrong there, or leaving the door open ever so slightly for Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead is now able to take the inside line there, and under braking gets the move secured. Andrew Whitehead now leads the race, as we see Matt Daly now on the heels of Will Inglis as they head towards the final corner. It's going to be pretty much free wide heading into the final corner. A little bit of contact between the two as they try to make their cars as wide as possible. They take the inside line there. Andrew Whitehead going very wide on all the corner entries here. Must be something to do with the setup or just the way he feels comfortable in the car. But yeah, this battle for the lead is ongoing. It is raging on. As we see Andrew Whitehead kicking up a little bit of dust, and Will Inglis finding himself vulnerable to Matt Daly again as Matt Daly enters the S's there. Will Inglis has the inside line though, and is going to push him wide, and they make contact. There's contact between Matt Daly and Will Inglis. Will Inglis did a very good job to catch that at such a speed. That slows those two down a little bit. Greg Young will be feeling a little bit more confident maybe in a possibility on the podium. If these two have more contact, or if the cars in front of them have a little bit more contact, I imagine Alan Matthews and Greg will be feeling fairly happy with a podium at the moment. But yeah, very nice that those two were able to carry on after that small bit of paint transfer, shall we say, as we head into Sector 3 now. And Matt Daly's in the slipstream of Will Inglis as they head towards the final part of the lap now. There's about a second worth of delta between Andrew Whitehead and Will Inglis, so he can breathe a little bit, can Andrew? But Matt Daly is very quick behind, and he's going to dispatch of Will Inglis as they head towards the final corner. But Will Inglis is going to be able to make the switch back, box him off, and keep him behind for now. Matt Daly, though, gets the inside line under braking there. Very brave on the brakes heading into the final corner. Gets a very nice exit as well, actually. Didn't compromise his exit too much considering how much speed. And it looks like Alan Matthews and Colin Kanife have made contact. Oh, dear. I'm not quite sure what happened there. We only kind of saw the end of that accident as Alan Matthews just about gets on track without collecting another car there. But that now puts Rob Whitney in P6. Andrew Whitehead, obviously, currently leading the touring car standings. Doing a very impressive job of it as well. He'll be able to build his delta between him and Colin just a little bit more now. Colin obviously this race not gone the way that he would have wanted. If he stays in this kind of position, he'll set himself up nicely for the next reverse grid race. But yeah, it's races like this that can make or break a championship. And Andrew Whitehead will be asking for more of this, I am sure. Colin Kanife still down in P8. Meanwhile, his other rival in terms of pace here at this circuit is out in P2, I was about to say, but something's going wrong for Andrew Whitehead, and he finds himself now down in third. Will Inglis able to take P2 off Andrew, or off Matt rather. Matt finds himself in the lead of this race now. Just as we saw in race 1, Matt Daly now leads this race. We've got just over half race distance to go. And it is Matt Daly in the lead. Colin Kanife currently P7. And it's 3 wide behind them. The battle for P8 is ongoing between Paul Millman, Alan Matthews and James Rose. But unfortunately for James, he's been spun out there. It looks like the car's a little bit unhappy with Alan, to be honest. And yeah, it's not been the best lap for him, it must be said. Alan Matthews makes contact with James Rose and finds himself in P9. Meanwhile, James Rose down in P11. I'm not sure if he's able to get that car moving. Again, he's trying to, by the looks of things. But yeah, what a shame to see James Rose's race undone like that. John Baker finds himself on the fringes of the points again. Looks like he's been able to join our session, did he? Was he on the grid? I can't quite remember, unfortunately. I believe it's... Yeah, it's an odd one, but he's currently in a nice bit of clean air, and it looks like Rosie Hodson and Alan Matthews are trading positions. Alan Matthews able to get past Rosie Hodson to take P9. But yeah, that three-way battle for P8 has come to a pretty abrupt end as a result of that contact there. Obviously, Colin Knief now getting back towards P6 there, running with quite a nice bit of pace there. And we see actually Andrew Whitehead comfortable-ish in P3 at the moment, although he'll want that number to have been higher, or lower rather. He'll be wishing it was P1 or P2. I'm sure he didn't want his challenge for the leader of this race to end like this, although don't count out a late race incident. We've seen so many drivers' races undone in the last stages of the race. One tiny little error at a fast circuit like this can completely undo your race. You've got loads of runoff here as well, so you've not even got a bit of a barrier to kind of bounce off of and rejoin the circuit with. Obviously, that would give you quite a bit of damage. But yeah, if you go missing, if you go for a bit of an adventure here at Donington, you are going quite the distance. As we see Colin Knief taking P6 away from Rob Whitney as he heads down into turn 1 now. Looks like Rob Whitney was trying to be brave under braking there, but it wasn't going to move. Unfortunately, Colin Knief was going to put a little bit of a squeeze on him there to take P6 away from him. See Barry Clayton jumping over the curbs a little bit there. And we see as a result of some of that contact, all the drivers kind of occupying their own little bit of the circuit now. A little bit of breathing space for everyone as we enter the latter half of this race now. About 3 seconds separating Matt Daly, leading race 2 as he did in race 1. This should put him in a very nice position for the championship as he edges closer to Colin Knief, towards Colin Knief in P2. The battle for the lead of the championship is still ongoing, even at this late stage in the championship. I said championship quite a few times then. And Andrew Whitehead and Will Inglis running together, as we saw for so much of this weekend, although Andrew Whitehead has to dive into the pits. Oh dear, I'm not sure if that was a lack of fuel or something wrong with the car. Did he fuel himself for the 10-minute race, maybe? I don't believe so. Oh no, he's serving a drive-through. He's serving a drive-through penalty for Andrew Whitehead. And that puts a bit of a damper on things for him, I'm sure. As he dives back out on circuit behind Rob Whitney in P7. Didn't lose out too much in that drive-through. Obviously, where the pit entry and pit exit are positioned here at this circuit, it's quite nice in terms of time spent in the pit, but yeah, that has rather put a damper on things for him. What a shame. Greg Young now finds himself on the podium if he stays in this position. So capitalising on a few other people's misfortunes there to find himself running P3 now. So well done to Greg for some very nice, stable running there. You see Andrew Whitehead and Rob Whitney now enjoying a bit of a battle between them. There's about 4 tenths separating them as they head towards turn 3 now, or rather sector 3. And they are pretty much side by side heading into this braking zone. Only a tenth separating them as they come towards the final part of the lap now. There is Colin Knief and Barry Clayton for company, just a couple of positions higher, only a few seconds up the road. But it looks like Andrew White's going to have the outside line, but Rob Whitney should be able to defend from there. He doesn't know. He kind of puts the car in the middle of the circuit. Colin Knief goes fastest in this race so far, a 1:25 flat. That's a very nice lap from Colin. A couple of seconds faster than Barry Clayton ahead of him in P4. Yeah, these two battling tooth and nail. A little bit of oversteer for Rob Whitney on exit of turn 1 then. That should whet Andrew Whitehead's appetite just a little bit as he starts to head into the S's now. A little bit further back than what we saw on the previous lap, but with just under 10 minutes in this race, I'm sure he's got plenty of opportunity to make a move on Rob Whitney, and Rob Whitney is going to have to work to keep him behind. As we see these two side by side now, a little bit of dust being kicked up there, I'm sure, because they are racing so hard. And Colin Keneath, under braking, takes the inside line. That was a brilliant move from Colin. Left it to the very last second to take P4. Well done to Colin for an impressive move there as he charges towards the podium. At this pace, if he keeps on going like this, he may find himself on the podium anyway. He didn't have the most electric start to the race, but yeah, finds himself possibly on the podium. So I'm sure he will take that. So Colin Keneath, having dispatched of Barry Clayton, now has his sights set on Greg Young as he heads through turn 1. Edging ever closer, about a second and a half faster than Barry on the previous go-around. Now about 3 seconds separating him and Greg as he heads through the S's. We've seen Colin feels very confident in the S's. We saw with that move, he was very brave, knew exactly how the car was going to behave, and took advantage of his very nice pace there. Now about 2.5 seconds separating these two drivers, so we certainly should be on for a nice battle for the podium as we enter the later stages of this race. Meanwhile, Matt Daly has not had much screen time in the past few minutes because he doesn't really need it. He's just having a nice quiet race out in the lead. He is kind of stretched away from Will Inglis, currently running P2, and is doing a very nice job out in the lead. About 8 seconds between him and Will Inglis, battling his way through the order. He finds himself now in the lead of this race with not too many worries, I am sure. So see Andrew Whitehead and Rob Whitney still very close together at this stage in the race. They're doing a very good job of having a nice battle between them. We may see a move being attempted from Andrew Whitehead under this braking zone. He puts his car on the outside line there, but he's a bit too far back, unfortunately, for him. See them about half a second apart. A little bit of oversteer for Andrew Whitehead as they come towards the final part of this lap now. And Will Inglis has to enter the pit. Is that for another drive-through? It looks like that's another drive-through for Will Inglis. So Greg Young finds himself running P2. Colin Keneath is back on the podium. And it's going to be very close between Barry Clayton and Will Inglis. As we see, once again, Andrew Whitehead and Will Inglis setting themselves up for a battle with each other. They really must enjoy battling each other here at Donington. They've got plenty of experience with it now, because we're coming towards the end of race 2, and they find themselves occupying the same bit of circuit once again, through pretty much identical circumstances as well. Will Inglis has had to sacrifice his running in P2, although he hasn't lost out too much. He's still P5, still some nice points up for grabs in P5 there, just not what he would have wanted, as we see him about a second away from Barry Clayton, who's running P4 at the moment, aching close to the podium for Barry Clayton. Let's see if he can push towards the top spots there. See Rob Whitney defending with all his might against Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead is absolutely flying at the moment. Very close behind in the slipstream. Rob Whitney is going to have to try and think of a defence as they come into this harsh braking zone. We've seen Andrew Whitehead can certainly stick a nose up down the inside there, but Rob Whitney had him boxed off, had him a little bit too much out of reach for Andrew there. See these two still side by side as they come towards the final part of this lap and get ready to start another one. Looks like Barry Clayton's had a bit of an off there. Is that a DNF potentially? Doesn't seem to be going. No, I'm not sure if he's run out of fuel. It doesn't look like he has. He might have just made a bit of a mistake there. That sees him running P7 now. This is now a battle for P5 between these two as they head into turn 1. They are still so close. It is no mean feat to be able to race this close for so long, and they're doing a mighty job of doing it. 152 through the speed trap there, so Andrew is going at some pace for definite. As we see these two once again setting themselves up for the S's. One tiny mistake could be the key that that Andrew needs to get past Rob Whitney for P5. They're not far off from Will Inglis. Will Inglis has got a bit cleaner. He's able to lap a little bit faster. Barry Clayton having obviously dropped back there. He has got a nice bit of track where he can just settle in towards the end of this race now. We've only got a couple of laps to go in this race. And Willingliss has done a very nice recovery there, given he's just pretty much only just served a drive-through. He finds himself in P4 anyway. Yeah, doing a very nice job in that position, as we see Andrew Whitehead thinking about a move around the outside again. If he's going to dart out in front of the braking, no, he's too far back once again. This must be so torturous for Andrew to be so close yet so far from P5. Seen actually, as we see Rob Whitney taking the inside line there, it means on exit he can defend against Andrew Whitehead, although Andrew Whitehead does get the slipstream. Is he going to be closer on this time round? They are very close in terms of lap time, only 600th of a second separating the two. We see him darting onto the pit exit there to set himself up for turn 1. He's very close, but not sure if he's close enough to take advantage of a nice overtaking opportunity. Some of these corners obviously present themselves very nicely, especially towards Sector 3. The S is obviously very difficult, very challenging to make a move done cleanly. Or rather, get a move done clearly. But yeah, Andrew's carrying a lot of pace there behind Rob Whitney, but unfortunately he's got nowhere to go as he tries to hang it round the outside. And he's a little bit tidier than Rob through that corner, but he's still not able to get the car out in front, or at least put a nose in to put a bit of pressure on Rob, or to try and take a position off him. And into this heavy braking zone, Andrew Whitehead copies Rob, taking that inside line there. As we see Colin Knief and Greg Young coming together, swapping positions there. Colin Knief now running P2. As we see these two swapping positions as well. It's still Rob Whitney out in front for the moment as we come towards the final part of this lap now. Willingliss only about 2 seconds apart from then, as it looks like Rob Whitney's outbraked himself there. He's outbraked himself big time. Maybe just miscalculated the brakes. I'm not sure if he's late on the brakes. Not sure if he had a bit of a lock-up. But for whatever reason, that car has spat him off the circuit at this point, and Andrew Whitehead is able to take P5. We're on the final lap now. It's a big ask to make up such a delta. It's about 3 seconds, 2 seconds. I don't think he's going to be able to come closer to Willingliss with 1 lap to go, but he has done a very mighty job, the pair of them have, with drive-throughs and some earlier contact, although not as bad as in race 1. Despite all that, all the adversities that they have faced, they find themselves P4 and P5, so some very nice points up for grabs for those two drivers. As we see Alan Matthews and Paul Millman very close together. We saw them battling earlier on obviously that came to an abrupt end, but we might have a battle between these two drivers on the very last lap of this race. There's about a second between them, and Alan Matthews has gone a little bit wide there. That sees him dropping back just a little bit, still running his headlights. Is Alan Matthews, but yeah, it's Colin Knief currently heading round, and Matt Daly just in the nick of time there. We see Matt Daly cross the line to take the race to victory. A very impressive drive back towards the top end of the field there. He started further down the order in the reverse grid race and fought his way, climbed his way through the order with some very impressive moves to take P1. Well done to Matt Daly, and commiserations to Colin Knief, once again finding himself in P2, and Greg Young, well done to end up on the podium there. Greg, you take home P3, rounding out the podium. Willingliss takes home P4, and Andrew Whitehead taking home P5. It looks like he was getting ever closer to Willingliss, but it wasn't to be, unfortunately. I'm sure he would have wanted 5 more minutes in this race, but don't worry if you want a little bit more racing, because this is the triple header this weekend, so we have another short sprint race to come. Paul Millman crossing the line in 8th, and Alan Matthews taking home P9. We see Rosie Hodson rounding out the points there. Here, the engine screaming on this in-lap. There isn't much of a cooldown for these cars, unfortunately. Obviously, the drivers enjoying these 156 touring cars. As we see, Matt Daly won't complete his parade. Oh no, he will. He's doing some celebratory donuts. Okay, good, good. I'm glad we haven't missed them. Is Colin going to join in? Colin won't join in. We might get that towards the end of the season, maybe. Yeah, some well-deserved victory donuts for Matt Daly there. Not 1 even 5 a day. Wow, that was, I think, the fastest moving object I've ever seen. Is that a bit of lag? Or is that just... Okay. Don't quite know what to make of that one, but yeah, that was one way. That is certainly a spectacle from Willingliss there. That rather distracted from the donut here. Yeah, one of his 5 a day for Matt Daly here, as he returns to the pit a little bit with not much tread left on his tyres. I don't think that will pass an MOT anytime soon. Oh, that's how Willingless ended up there. It's a simple cut through. But yes, that rounds out all the action here at Donington for race 2. We'll join you in just a moment for race 3, when let's see if Matt Daly can be toppled by Colin Knief or any of the other drivers to avoid a complete domination of this weekend. He's doing a very nice job so far. We'll catch you in just a second. And welcome back for the final part of the action here at Donington for this weekend. We are here on the grid for race 3, the 10-minute short sprint race to round out the weekend. The final bit of points up for grabs for these drivers. It's currently Alan Matthews sitting on pole with Barry Clayton in P2, Rob Whitney P3, and Andrew Whitehead in P4. And I believe Willie Gliss is in the mix, near enough to Andrew as well. Yeah, he is in P5 by the looks of things. So those two, as ever, finding themselves very friendly with each other on track again. So we should be looking forward to that into turn 1. As you see, we've got 10 seconds until lights out. We start to hear the revs rising. Well, we don't from this far back. Unfortunately, the microphone systems on these cameras that they use here to capture the racing isn't very good. But we have 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away. Plumes of tyre smoke as they launch their Concave. Looks like he's got a very nice start from the grid there. He gets very close to Will Inglis. Alan Matthews peels off out in the lead for the moment. It is focusing on Matt Daly, though. Matt Daly is side by side with Concave, and there's a little bit of contact between looks like Andrew Whitehead and Greg Young, maybe? I'm not quite sure exactly who was involved in that, but luckily no one facing the wrong way on track, so everyone able to carry on. Barry Clayton finds himself in P3. Alan Matthews still leads with Rob Whitney in P2. Will Inglis running P4 under pressure from Colin Knief, who's trying to go around the outside and then down the inside to make a move on him there, and he has to hang it round the outside, has to run as wide as he possibly does. So you see everyone taking pretty much an identical line there in quick succession. They all are. As we see Barry Clayton being caught a little bit, being caught out by the swarm of cars surrounding him there. He's dropped back into 4th as Will Inglis and Rob Whitney are tooth and nail trying to take P2. Will Inglis gets the move done. A little bit of contact under braking there, and it looks like it's Rob Whitney facing the wrong way. He nearly did, is able to keep it going just, but unfortunately everyone was so close that sees him now at the back of the order. What a shame that this race has started the way it has for Rob Whitney, but he's not too far back. He might be able to have a very nice race in a few laps' time. As we see Barry Clayton and Greg Young. Barry Clayton not had an amazing start either. He has dropped back, as has Greg Young. Barry Clayton using as much of the grass there as he does, not just the curb. As we see, still very close. About 6 cars occupying 5 seconds on track. You see Matt Daly hanging it around the outside there. He is carrying a lot more speed than Will Inglis, but Will Inglis was able to box him off. And Andrew Whitehead and Matt Daly have come together. There's contact. Matt Daly, after enjoying so much success in race 1 and race 2, it looks like it's over for him in race 3. He's now at the very bottom of the field there. It looks like the wheels are they clipping through the car just a little bit. Just a little bit. Not meant for off-road is the 156, and that is unfortunately what Matt Daly's is doing. He is about 10 seconds behind the rest of the field. And yes, he's going to have to work hard if he wants to take another high points scoring position away from this race. That does, however, give Alan Matthews out in front a bit of breathing room, though. He's got about 4 seconds to the cars behind these to be. All the rest of the cars have been so kind of occupied with the battles that he's been able to kind of peel away, as we see John Baker, rather, running P7 with Rosie Hodgson side by side with Rob Whitney. Rob Whitney trying to climb his way back through the field. We know Rob Whitney's got some pace in this car at this circuit after an impressive stint in practice as well. I saw actually he did a very nice job on obviously in race 2 as well, as we see John Baker getting overtaken by Rob Whitney now as they head into the final part of the lap. And they say 5 seconds for separating about 6 cars. If you ignore Alan Matthews, there's about 2 seconds separating 5 cars. P2 down to P6 very close together. As we see this slipstream train as they head down the start-finish straight. Not that these cars need that much assistance. Near enough makes no difference. 500 horsepower in a car that weighs just under a ton. This car obviously much lighter than the road-going 156, although given its size and the fact that it's a 156 is actually quite a light car when you think about it, especially if you go for a twin spark. This car is obviously running quite a heavily modified or quite a different engine to what the road-going ones are, and can reach speeds in excess of 150 miles an hour based on setup. So yes, certainly means business, these cars do. As we see this train for P2 starting to split off just a little bit now. It's Andrew Whitehead and Will Inglis. In the previous race, up until we had that incident with Will Inglis, Andrew Whitehead, or it looked like Will Inglis had the upper hand on Andrew at the later stages of the last race, but that may be a reversal of roles this time out, as we've got Colin Keneath putting pressure on the two cars in front of him, spurring them along, but Andrew Whitehead executed that corner perfectly then, and was able to get a bit of a switchback, kind of an unexpected move from Andrew Whitehead there. Finds himself in P2 now. He should try and peel away from Willingliss. Willingliss enjoying a little bit of contact with Colin Keneath there as they head through the final corner, luckily not spinning out there. It didn't upset the car too much, and Andrew Whitehead starts the next lap having just set the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:25.4. Obviously, a little bit lighter fuel loads. This time we've only got just over 5 minutes to go in this shorter format race. And Matt Daly actually has just set a blistering lap, a 1:24.9. I did look at P1 there, but Matt Daly is unfortunately not in P1. He is very close, though, to Rosie Hodson and John Baker in P9 and P8 respectively, so he should be able to salvage some points away from this third and final race of this weekend. And yeah, running very nicely indeed, a 1:24.9 from Matt Daly. And we see Willingliss and Colin Keneath near enough side by side. Colin Keneath thinks better of it though and dives in behind Will, and will have another attempt further on in the lap. He may do it here actually. Got a very nice exit. They are side by side and they're going to enter that heavy downhill braking zone, and he might try and be braver under braking. Is he? No, he's not going to be able to get the move done there because Willingliss has positioned his car pretty much perfectly to defend from Colin, although that has compromised his exit on the next corner a little bit. Willingliss pushes him as wide as he dares and is unfortunately not able to get past is Colin yet, although he does on the exit of that corner there. It looks like Willingliss just went a little bit too wide there, maybe trying to squeeze Colin. He's kind of upset the car, not set himself up amazingly for the next corner, and as a result of that, Colin's been able to kind of breeze past. And there's now about half-second gap between those two drivers, as we see Andrew Whitehead still out there in second position, although Colin Keneath is now going to be trying to hunt him down. That battling between those two has actually slowed them down quite a substantial amount, because Greg Young and Barry Clayton have been able to draw a little bit closer, running P5 and P6 respectively, although the other way around, rather. Yes, Andrew Whitehead may be starting to feel the pressure now. There's about a 3.5 second gap. If he can keep his pace up, he may be able to bring it home in this position without too much trouble. We've got about around about 5 minutes to go in this race now. And yeah, you can see Alan Matthews off in the distance there. That 4-second gap has stayed pretty much the same. He's done a very nice job. He executed the start to the reverse grid race perfectly there, and finds himself running a very handy P1 at the moment. As we see Rosie Hodson and John Baker. It looks like John Baker, a little bit of an instant for him there, sees him in P10. So he is unfortunately not able to continue by the looks of things. It looks like the rear tyres might be a little bit toasty, shall we say, and that is not providing him much grip. So he is now trying to get back on track, and I'm sure he's going to treat this as practice, though it looks like those rear tyres are completely gone. Maybe a puncture even, or a little bit of car damage from a wall. We didn't quite see the incident, but he finds himself down in P10 now. As we see, Colin has broke away from Willingliss, and Willingliss now finding himself under pressure from Greg Young, actually, but Colin Keneath now getting a little bit closer to Andrew Whitehead. And we see Rob Whitney, after that earlier incident, places himself now in P7. And he is actually on the back of this train. This train goes all the way from P7 to P4 pretty much, although Willingliss has been able to build a little bit of a gap now. So far, or currently, the two closest cars on track are Greg Young and Barry Clayton, only about 0.7 of a second separating them. Barry will be thinking about a move on Greg, but Greg is going to have to kind of split his attention, divide his attention between P6, Barry Clayton, and P4, Willingliss. Does he sacrifice a charge towards Will in an attempt to defend from Barry, or does he forget that Barry exists? Not that he can in that very, very vibrant livery, as he tries to push towards Willingliss. As a personal favourite of co-commentator Lewis Bowers is Barry Clayton's livery. Actually, if he was here, he'd be raving on about just how good it looks on this 156. Very sleek-looking car. And yes, certainly unmissable is Barry Clayton's. Colin Keneath is gaining ever so slightly on Andrew Whitehead, though it didn't happen as quick as I thought it would. Andrew Whitehead is obviously a very competent driver leading the championship at the moment. So these are really important points if Colin can eat away at that points advantage that Andrew Whitehead has currently got. He may be able to set himself nicely towards the end of the season. He just set the best lap of the race so far, 1:24.9, matching Matt Daly's pretty much. As you see, Matt Daly improves on that at 124.6. That's nearly as good as this qualifying effort. We've only got a couple more laps on track, but the tyres will have worn off slightly. But still, a mighty effort from Matt Daly there. And there's only about half a second separating Greg Young and Will Inglis. Will Inglis feeling the pressure now. This race hasn't been, although I say that actually, I was about to say this race hasn't been quite as good as his others, although a drive through that he had to serve last time I'm sure he'd rather forget about, so I'm sure he's pretty happy with P4 or P5 at the moment on merit. See Greg getting closer in that slipstream. He's too far back to think about a move on the braking at this point in time, but we've got another lap to go. Rather, we've got 2 laps to go, actually. This is the penultimate lap now. Alan Matthews is 3 seconds ahead of Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead, who's done an almighty job of keeping it in front of Colin Knief. Colin Knief edging ever closer. Now only a second and a half separates the two. As we now enter the final lap, actually, he didn't cross the line in time, and this is now the... Oh, yeah, he didn't cross the line in time. This is now the final lap of the race. This 7-lap sprint sees Alan Matthews still leading with 3 seconds between him and P2. And that gap extends just a little bit, as it looks like Andrew Whitehead didn't have the fastest sector on. That's allowed Colin Knief to get a little bit closer now. Still, this battle for P4 ongoing, although that looks like Greg's dropped back a little bit and is now under pressure from Barry Clayton, so he may be focusing his efforts now on keeping P5 for as long as he can. We're now at the final stage of this race. We see Alan Matthews dipping onto the gravel a little bit there, kicking up a little bit of dust, but Andrew Whitehead is now feeling the pressure from Colin Knief. Colin Knief is absolutely flying on the final lap of this race. It's about half a second between them. He needs to be about 3/10 or closer, I'd say, to make a move on Andrew, does Colin. And he may get that on the braking here. He's only got a couple more overtaking opportunities left in this race. Will this be the retribution that Andrew Whitehead wanted from the previous 2 races? I think it will. It will set him up nicely in this championship fight. Obviously, those other races not going the way that he would have wanted, but he's fighting for the second spot on the podium here. There's only 3/10 separating them as we enter the final corner now. It looks like, though, it's too far back for... it's too far back for Colin Knief, rather, as we see Alan Matthews crossing the line to take home the race 3 victory. He executed the start reverse grid race absolutely perfectly. He doesn't want to complete a parade lap because I'm sure he's pretty tired having lapped that car so aggressively for those 10 minutes there. Yeah, he executed this type of race absolutely brilliantly and fully deserves that victory, as it was starting to look a little bit more difficult as Colin Knief was climbing his way through the field, taking home P3 in the end. Will Inglis comes home P4. Greg Young keeps P5 away from Barry Clayton. Matt Daly ending this race P7 after that unfortunate event earlier in the race that saw him facing the wrong direction at turn 1. Rob Whitney taking home P8, Rosie Hodgson taking home P9, and John Baker scoring a point in P10. As we see Rosie Hodgson just coming across the line to end her race there. It looks like we've got a little bit of a car park going on here at Donington now. There's many things at the drift circuit. It's a drift circuit. It's a provider of donuts and now a car park. As we see Colin Knief giving the car a bit of a cool down as he comes back into the pit box then. A little bit of a slide, a celebratory slide. Come on, Colin, give us a couple of donuts or park it or something. I don't know, just... a little bit something. Usually Colin Knief provides a little bit of entertainment for us on the end of the race, but I'm sure he's a bit tired after 3 races there where he really had to fight for some of those points. There we go. The back end goes out in celebration. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed that race weekend. I thought it was a brilliant way to visit the Donington circuit in these 156s. I do really like these cars. These are, I think, arguably my favourite out of the TCR cars, or rather the touring cars, although the 75 certainly looks good on track. But yes, so Andrew Whitehead able to claw back some semblance of points this weekend in race 3 there. Obviously misfortunes in race 1 and race 2, but he's able to claw back a podium at the end there. Well, I thoroughly hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed commentating on it. We'll see you next time for round 10 in the Alfa 75s at Silverstone, I believe. I might be wrong there. I will have to double check, but regardless, I will see you in a fortnight's time for more touring car racing action.